So I guess that's the intro.
Greg's from Berkeley.
I don't know about that.
You don't like that? What do you want the intro to be?
I don't know.
Okay. It'll just be this. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with, I don't know, making fun of Greg's always good.
I don't know. We never know how to start the podcast.
You might have heard that.
Yeah.
So it'll either be something along the lines of whatever we keep from the first 5-6 minutes that I've been recording, or something along the lines of, welcome to Late to the Movies. My name is Ben Holt, and this is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, continuing Whodunit Month is, well, the first movie this month that someone actually says whodunit in. It's 1985's Clue. My guest, your guest, everyone's guest, left to right across your podcast style. This week we got Kay.
Hello.
Hello. We got Will.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, y'all. How's it going? I'm thinking about being more conversational off the top.
I was like, what did you say, y'all?
It's it's general.
Trying to get the Southern demographic.
Oh yeah, I've had them forever.
Oh, okay, true.
Yeah.
He's just trying on new things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying new things. Why not?
Next time it's going to be like in a boot.
Yeah, we got to get the Great White North
Okay, get 'em.
to download also. Download, don't listen. That still counts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I really want to talk about this movie. Classic that's sort of, I don't know if it's the star of it. It's been tarnished over the years, something like that. I feel like the kids today don't really care about it too much, yet when we were kids, it was on all the freaking time for some reason.
I would say like it was fairly regularly. It would be on TV when we were growing up. And I mean, I feel it must have been our parents really liked it. So we watched it pretty early. But it was, I feel like you would say maybe a cult classic, but.
Before we get into categorizing it too much, let's talk about unrelated things.
Okay.
Have you been watching anything good recently?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I have to think for a moment.
There's been a lot of Diablo, I know.
There's been so much Diablo. It's been a problem.
Yeah, but what's a few missed days of work?
Oh no, I saw Spider-Man, the second Spider-Verse movie. That was fantastic. That was a while ago though.
Yeah.
That was the last thing I probably saw. I front row of the theater. It was worth it.
Jeez, really immersive.
Oh, it was so immersive.
Yeah, that movie's just incredible.
I love that movie.
I want to go see it again. It was so good.
Yeah, really excited to see if they stick the landing. I hope they do.
Yeah.
I'll be devastated.
Yeah, I can't think of too many. Wait, hold on. Greg and Ray were on the last episode, and they said similarly, and I was about to make the same exact point I made on the last episode. Okay. Listen to that one if you want to know what I said.
I have to go listen now.
The short version, I don't know of too many mainstream theatrically released American animated series that are shaping up to be a trilogy that feels like this level of quality. They mentioned Toy Story. I guess that's probably the pick.
Yeah, I'd say they have the fourth one now too, and I don't know. I feel like it wasn't as good.
Yeah, it was just different, and the three aren't as tightly related as it seems like these three Spider-Verse movies are going to be. It's different. And I know what the most recent thing you've seen is, well, besides Clue.
Yes, we saw the new Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 yesterday. It was really good. And we knew going in it was going to be a part 1, so it felt long at points to me, but it never felt, I wasn't bored with it. It wasn't slow, but it did feel like it was a lot happening. But it's a really good setup. You can see where they're going for the next one. The action's cool. The sets are always awesome. The locations are always very...
Yeah.
Fun fact, I don't think I've seen any of the Mission Impossible movies. Fun
fact, well, I've watched all of them in the last week.
How many are there?
This is the 7th one.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, I've seen 0 of them. I just know that he does all of his crazy stunts and he was outside of a plane once.
The first 4 are all really different. And then basically since 4, Ghost Protocol, they've sort of stayed the same. Christopher McQuarrie is the only director who's done more than one. He took over in the 5th one. He did 5th and 6th and now 7th. Rogue Nation, Fallout, and now Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah, they're really fun. And I feel like this one, they've always been kind of goofy and they have this campiness to their spy craft, which is really, I appreciate, and it's really fun. And this one got a little bit more of that in than I think the last few have. Pretty naturally. It wasn't like they were making a point to do it or anything, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
The goof 'em ups were there again, which is nice.
Goof 'em ups.
They brought back the up close magic that Tom Cruise did in the first movie and hasn't really done since. Some good mask stuff.
All right.
You want to talk about Clue?
Sure.
Yeah.
Who did it?
Yeah. So as we said earlier, you and I have seen this before, Kay, but this was your first time.
Yeah, no, I'm very surprised when you guys said it was on TV all the time because I was an avid TV watcher and I've never seen this movie. And I'm kind of sad I didn't. It was really fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
it. Well, yeah, first off, either you want to do a 1 minute plot summary?
Sure.
Okay.
Feel free to do a very basic version if you prefer.
A bunch of people get sent random letters telling them to meet at this random mansion in the middle of nowhere. And then someone dies and everyone tries to figure out how it happened. And then more people die and you still don't know what's going on. And then more people die.
Yep.
And then there's resolution at the end. A
again,
lot of resolutions.
And then again, yeah.
But it was very, very fun.
Multiple resolutions.
Yeah. This is directed by Jonathan Lynn. You might know him from My Cousin Vinny, Whole Nine Yards. And, it's a pretty good cast. It's a send up of the. I wanted to do this later in the month because it is very much a spoof of Whodunit movies, based on Clue. This is also, I think, our first board game.
I was trying to
movie.
Like, there's definitely movies based on board games out there, but this is probably like the biggest one.
Transformers, if you want to count. I'm just thinking toys.
Oh, okay.
Barbie in a little bit, but board games, I don't know.
I think there's a Battleship movie.
Oh, there is a
Rihanna.
Battleship movie.
Yeah. Rihanna's in it. They're fighting aliens, I think, for some reason.
Yeah, it's real fun if you just turn your brain off.
Yeah. There you go. And I always had a soft spot for this movie. It's maybe overstating it. A lot of people really like this movie, but I thought I haven't watched it in a long time, and I definitely have seen discourse around it. First off, not a ton of it, but kind of being like, wow, a lot of this is like pretty outdated. There's still some good jokes, but it's pretty outdated. So I wasn't expecting to like super enjoy it this time through, but I did actually. I had a really good time. It's got such a weird sort of pacing to it, where it'll kind of be like nothing's going on for a while, or there'll just sort of be setups for people to just rattle off jokes and go really back and forth really quickly. And then literally the whole cast will be sprinting around for like a 5-minute stretch.
And there's like the super recurring jokes, like very much overdone, and but like it's still like entertaining.
Yes. And then those 3 endings.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that because I was like trying to keep track of different things, and it was like, here's all these.
Yeah.
Is it true that they showed a different one depending on what theater you were in or what showing you went to originally when they first put it on? Because I feel like something that maybe Dad told us that I'm never sure if that's true or not. Mm-hmm. That they in the theater would have like one ending, and then if you went and saw it at a different theater, it was a different ending. Mm-hmm. So don't know if that's true, but that would be very cool.
Yeah. So each theater received one of the 3 endings, and some theaters announced which ending the viewer would see, A, B, or C, or, this is, or that could have happened, or this is what really happened. And then obviously home video, it's been all 3 endings. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that probably would have been frustrating.
I think it'd be better if they played it in theater how it was.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, I found like a lot more entertainment out of that.
Yes.
It's really fun.
And definitely like, rep screenings since then have shown all of it. And I think it would have felt, if you just got one of those, especially one of the first 2, I feel like you would have felt pretty unfulfilled.
Well,
but I think just getting all 3 is good because it's also a better play on the game.
Yeah. On this rewatch, the 3rd one does feel the most realized and it makes the most sense. And
that's the best final line.
Absolutely. So it would absolutely, I think, feel a little lacking if you just had the first 2 or one of the first 2. But yeah.
It was fun that they everything actually worked.
Yeah.
The way they played it. And I was like, I'm like, oh, it's not just like someone voted in the board game. And then it just turned out that it was like, no, you're just wrong. Yeah. It was just like everything worked.
The tone of the movie, you should say, though it is a comedy, it does do a lot of the murder mystery stuff pretty straight. Mm-hmm. It's not really making fun of that part of it so much. It's more just like the language and the dialogue is where most of the jokes come from.
And I don't think it's ever in any sort of malice towards it. And malice isn't the right word I'm looking for, but they
More
absolutely,
celebratory.
exactly.
Yeah.
You can tell that they love, or they really, someone who was going into this really was a fan of the Agatha Christie whodunits and wanted to do something that was spoofing it, but in a lovable sort of like reverence to it as well.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel like it was like the scary movie spin-off. So it wasn't just like poking fun at everything. It all
It's
works.
not just dumb.
Yeah.
A lot of the comedy is in it, but the actual if the backbone of it is actually like murder mystery.
Yeah. And you were saying before, I'd like to know how much is the actors ad-libbing stuff, because it feels a lot of it like it's a group of comedians that they just kind of threw in a room and we're like, we're giving you your character. We're going to give you the setups. Just go for it. Mm-hmm. Because it's so much of like a bing, bang, boom, very quick banter. Here's this, here's this, here's this, which works so well. And it's one of my favorite ways for there to be comedy. I really enjoy it. And watching it again now, I was having the same thoughts as Ben, as I didn't know if it was going to be something that I have this nostalgia for and it wouldn't translate to me watching it now. But I still had moments where I laughed out loud. It was really good jokes, timing. I do have a lot more problems with the sexism as well as some of the xenophobia that happens, but it was overall a really fun time.
You can definitely like feel the dated in like that aspect, but this is like, if this came out like tomorrow, like just tweaking that to like more modern day like things, it would still be perfect.
Absolutely.
Like, I still like had a really good time with it.
For sure.
It's very much the same issues that I have with a lot of 80s movies of just this was the tone for a lot of them, as well as this is an 80s movie that's supposed to be set in the 50s. So it even pushed it a little bit further.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And some of it is just even jokes that I definitely wouldn't have found as funny as a kid. The fact that J. Edgar Hoover calls, like that didn't mean a ton to me as a child, but it's just a really funny thing that they throw in.
They keep mentioning.
And people keep going, J. Edgar Hoover was calling for me. And the joke about Wadsworth's backstory resolving in his wife ultimately killing herself because she was under investigation by HUAC because she had friends that were, dramatic pause, socialists.
And they all go,
yeah, and everyone's shocked and he's crying and people run over to comfort him. It's so funny. Yeah. But communism was a red herring, as they say multiple times at the end of the movie. It's funny. Aside from that, there's not a lot of like 50s tinged stuff, just the styling really. But yeah, I don't know. Original choice for Wadsworth was Leonard Rossiter, who seems to be just a BBC guy that I don't know very well. The second choice was Rowan Atkinson, who's Mr. Bean.
Oh.
Okay, that would have been equally as entertaining.
Yeah. Different, but very different, but just as entertaining for sure.
It would definitely have a good level of humor, but just a different kind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But who ultimately played it is, of course, Tim Curry. Now we can talk about the cast a little bit. I think we should start with Tim Curry. We haven't talked about him before. He's the reason you're afraid of clowns. Tim
Curry is the reason I am afraid of clowns, as well as the reason I will not step on the drain in the shower. I saw it when I was far too young, and it haunts me to this day.
See, and I have the opposite. I have not seen it, and I just knew him from Home Alone 2. Lost in New York.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, that, and then he's the really scary sludge monster in Fern Gully. He's the voice.
Please, he's Smog.
Sorry.
I believe. I haven't seen Fern Gully in a while.
/ they're making a live-action Fern Gully.
Yeah, and Rocky Horror Picture Show,
yes,
probably
Rocky
the
Horror
classic picture pull for him, and like a million other things, and a lot of voice work.
Yeah, I had a friend in high school who was terrified of his laugh to the point where if someone could get her phone when it was open, they'd change her ringtone to his laugh. Anytime it was like left near someone, they'd change it to his laugh, and it would terrify
amazing.
Her every time.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah.
This is a complete sidebar, but remember how serious custom ringtones were for a while there? It was like, you're paying money for some of those.
Or the ringbacks.
Yeah.
Those are wild.
I used to wait till the song that I wanted to be my ringtone would come on either the radio or if I had the CD, and then I'd record it on my phone so I could use that.
Yeah.
So it would be
really weird.
It would be a very weird quality, but I didn't have to pay for it.
This is such a dated conversation. This is wild.
We just lost all our Zoomers and below. What's the what's under Zoomers? Generation Omega, I think they're calling it, something like that, or Alpha.
Alpha, they're
Yeah.
Alpha.
Yeah, which is we got millennials thrusted on us, and they get Generation Alpha. They're just going to be crushing beef jerky and hunting or whatever.
Maybe
Very alpha.
They just got bows.
They're all
bow hunters.
They're all super toxic.
Yeah.
Also, besides Tim Curry, which is what we were talking about,
Yes.
we just love Tim Curry.
We do. Yes.
Yes.
And he is fantastic in that role. The way his character heightens throughout the course of the entire movie is fantastic. He starts and it's completely silent for that entire beginning of him just like
Walking
pulling up,
in,
throwing the
dogs.
bones to the dog, walking in, and he's putting his coat away,
Seen the
completely with him silent. And then everything is very stilted, and then it just kind of builds and builds and builds. As soon as Mr. Body shows up, it gets things kick off.
Yeah, it's like a very serious tone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
And like everyone's like, oh, how do you know like these people? And
Yeah.
like everything just escalates way too fast.
And I guess we can kind of do double duty talking about both the beginning plot wise and then also the characters. Showing up first is Colonel Mustard.
Mhm.
He's the first to arrive, and Mr. Body immediately cuts him off.
Mhm.
He's like, "You're Colonel Mustard, right?" And he's like, "No, my name is blah." And he cuts him off, says, "Everyone's using an alias tonight."
Oh, he's not Mr. Body yet.
No. Yeah. Wadsworth, the
Yes.
butler, maybe,
Yeah.
depending on which ending is correct. He's telling, basically, the exposition is that everyone's been getting the letters, like you said. They're being blackmailed. They've all been invited here tonight and given a pseudonym, an alias. And the aliases happen to line up with the characters in the board game Clue.
Mhm.
But I guess the reason that they're the aliases are the reason that the thing that most frustrates me about this movie exists, which is that they're not wearing the right colors.
It bothered me so much. I could not put into words how angry I was that people weren't wearing their like.
Yeah,
respective
Miss
color.
Scarlet was in blue. Miss Peacock was she had
had
feathers,
the feathers.
but she was wearing brown.
Miss White was in black.
Yeah.
I was saying that at least they do when they say Miss White for the first time, she opens her coat and the lining is white.
Yeah, it was just that
And
little
it's,
bit,
she's
but
extremely
Very
pale.
pale. Very pale.
just very disappointed on that.
I know. Yeah, we talked about that too, how it's a little bit off-putting, particularly the first time you watch it, to try and keep up with what all their names are when they don't match the colors that you think they should. Like
Yes.
Miss Scarlet looks like she should be Miss Peacock, particularly when you first see her and she's got
Yeah.
like the big
Whatever
For
that
sure,
is.
yes.
around her. And I'm
Literally,
like, oh,
yeah.
the first time I remember being like, oh, Miss Peacock, that's perfect. And she was in a peacock color.
Yes. Yeah, the color of her dress is like peacock
Yep.
feather.
And then she's not. She's Miss Scarlet. You're like, okay.
Very missed opportunity.
Yes.
And I get it. She's a Scarlet woman. I get it.
Yeah, we all
But-
get it.
Put her in red, and then we're all happy.
So Colonel Mustard's played by Martin Mull, who's been in a million things, but I know specifically among our friend group, the main pull is Gene Parmesan from Arrested Development. Or at least for Robbie, that'll be the main pull that he gets.
Yeah, I could not place where he was from that I would have known.
Yeah.
He's one of those faces that I know I'd seen him in a lot of things just because he's been in a lot of things.
Should say these are like expert level character actors, everyone in this.
Yeah. So anything that you watch probably from the 80s or 90s, I bet there's going to be a few of them that pop up in there.
Yes.
Even if you're not sure exactly where. And I love as a character because they play him so bumbling at points, but also very assertive. And it's just a really fun dichotomy.
Very bull in a China shop.
Yeah,
sort of idea.
exactly. Like he's very much like, all right, we've got this. And then it's like yelling and all of the word play that gets all mixed up all the time.
Stumbling into secret doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, everyone's good though.
Mhm.
So that, I guess, should go for everyone. This is a lot of character actors. So all of these people have been in a million things.
For sure.
And I realized that you said that about the first couple people. And so I'm just going to give a blanket that and we don't have to repeat it again. Comparatively, so they're doing the big ensemble thing. Comparatively, 1974, 11 years before this, Murder on the Orient Express had actual like movie stars mixed with some stage actors. But a lot of these movies do end up with maybe one person, and they're like the main sleuth, and then a bunch of character actor types. I think you could kind of say Knives Out was sort of like that in Glass Onion, with some bigger stars, but also like, consummate character actor type people. I keep saying that a lot. I'm hearing myself say character actor a lot.
It makes sense, particularly for things that are this genre of whodunits, to have people that, like you were saying, there's usually a few that are more well known, but it's going to be people that can fall into a character and have the people that are watching at home try and play along and figure out who done it along with them. They're going to need to be pretty broad in what they're doing in some ways, but also nuanced. So you want to go with the character actor. So you get a buy on saying it so many times.
Mrs. White shows up next. This is Madeline Kahn, and she has
her so much.
Probably the most memed bit from this movie, which is the flames on the side of my face.
The heaving breaths, flames, just red flames.
A bunch of Bogdanovich movies, a bunch of Mel Brooks movies, and she's great in this. It feels like there's some, I don't know, maybe this is probably findable information, but sometimes it's nice to just watch the movie and then start talking.
Yeah.
But it feels like some of the looser parts were just like, she's probably going to say something funny. Let's have her do like 8 takes of this joke and we'll pick one of them. Because some of them are like really good one-liners that she gives that don't even necessarily apply to the situation. A lot of them do, but some of them are just like, oh, that was a funny thing to say. We're going to put that in the movie.
I love her. I love her character. It's so weird and so funny.
She's definitely I feel like the most serious person in the whole room, like the entire time.
Yep.
When they're really like castigating her in the study maybe, or the lounge, when he's going through what everyone did wrong, and she has the line, "It was a matter of life and death. Once he died, I had a life." Yeah, which is great.
And
just
then
good stuff.
In that same scene, they're asking her about her husbands, and they say, "Your first husband disappeared." And she goes, "He was an illusionist." And he goes, "But he never reappeared." And she goes, "He wasn't a good illusionist." It's just so good.
It's very well done.
Yeah. So, and again, most of the jokes are coming from like the patter, from the dialogue, from the really quick back and forths, but they're taking the actual stuff pretty seriously for a lot of it, which I think makes the movie work. Probably it doesn't have like a scary movie vibe.
Oh yeah, no.
To your earlier point, and the other people, we got Michael McKean as Mr. Green, whose big secret he's being blackmailed for is that he's a homosexual, as he puts it dramatically.
Which is another way you can see how dated it all is.
Yes, exactly. But it was the 50s, HUAC and all that. Lesley Ann Warren plays Miss Scarlet. Who else was in? Oh yeah, I didn't mention Eileen Brennan was Mrs. Peacock.
Christopher
Lloyd is also in there as Professor Plum, and I think that's all like the game characters. Yeah.
And you've got the cook and
Yvette. The French maid.
Yep.
Who you find out right before she dies isn't actually French, and then promptly is murdered.
I really like the beginning with Professor Plum and Miss Scarlet, how they meet on the road and end up coming in together.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines, and I remember this from the first watch, is when he pulls up and they see the house for the first time, and there's like lightning striking over it, and he stops the car, and she's like, "Why did you stop?" And he goes, "The car is scared." I was like, "Yeah, okay, good."
My car would get scared there too, for sure. That house does look spooky.
Very spooky, very much kind of Hollywood Tower of Terror, mansion vibes, sort of things.
Yep.
Hollywood Hotel, that's the words.
And none of them know why they're there.
No.
They're gathered into the library. I don't think they call it the library, but it's a library type of thing.
Are they in the lounge at the stop?
The lounge, yeah. There's a lot of books.
Study
Maybe.
Might have been
There's bookcases.
One of them, yeah.
I think it's the study. There's bookcases.
Yes, that makes sense.
The door just goes away when it's closed from the other side. And
you can tell there's a few points where they make it slightly obvious that someone knows the other person, particularly when Miss White first walks in and her and Yvette have like that moment of kind of, and they kind of just walk past each other and things like that happening. So there's another layer to what's going on, which is really fun.
Same with like Scarlet and Colonel Mustard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that happening. And a lot of these movies in the early parts, part of the fun of it is being like, oh, I should file that away. That's going to be important later. Ooh, that was interesting. That note I need to
just keeping track of everyone, where they're going, like who's by themselves. Like,
yeah.
There's so many opportunities throughout the entire movie of like what's going on.
there's a great turn later, way later, but just to sort of mention it, well, we're talking about keeping track of things, where Wadsworth is doing the recreation of everything, and he goes, and one of us wasn't here, and you're like, oh, who was it?
The entire time I'm like thinking.
Yeah.
No, and I was trying
And
to
then
think.
it's kind of like a different answer.
Yeah, I was
each
trying to
time.
think, and I'm like, okay, unless it wouldn't have been possible when they're first watching it for people to like backtrack and do it, because in my head I'm like, I could just zoom back and look at the like screen and try and figure it out, but it's not in the spirit of what they actually want you to do.
No, it's
So
not. It's really clever.
And I'm always so bad at Clue too.
Yeah.
I love Clue.
Speaking of like the board game Clue, have you played Awkward Guess?
No.
No,
It's like
No,
a
I
more
haven't.
advanced, like fun, like version of Clue.
It's a fun version.
Well,
of Clue.
but more interesting. You get like
Yeah.
different information cards, and you trade information to different people.
Okay.
Oh, that's
that
really
makes more
fun.
sense.
And then like cards get burned off.
Yeah. So this is probably a good time to slow down a little bit and mention. Then we can kind of, a lot of the plot it's really good dialogue, but we don't need to go nitty gritty with it. Let's talk about the board game itself a little bit. A lot of our friends are what some might refer to as board game snobs. We might say connoisseurs.
Yes.
I think to a man, everyone I know hates Clue.
I like Clue.
Clue's fun. It just
Everyone we're friends with.
it's annoying to have to roll dice to explore rooms, because then Awkward Guess, you just pick a room and a weapon and a person.
There
and
you go.
You get information.
That's a charitable take on it. Most of them just say it fucking sucks.
No, I enjoy like
It's
trying to figure it
stupid.
out. I just hated having to walk across the board to get places.
Yes, that's true. I don't mind Clue. I like it.
Mhm.
I like the social aspect that you can sort of jury rig as like trying to keep track of what other people are asking about and marking down. I think there's more strategy than it's given credit for. Yes, if you're mostly playing obscure German board games like we are,
Yeah.
it might not hold as much interest. But a lot of people like Clue.
It's nostalgic.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those that we'd go to when the power goes out, and we're just by candlelight and flash bulbs, you know.
Way better than Monopoly.
That's true. No one likes Monopoly. They were going to make a movie out of that. It's called The News.
Capitalism.
Turn on CNN. There's Monopoly right there.
But going back to this is based on a board game, I think they do a really good job of it not feeling like they're kind of pandering too much to what should be in a board game and making it dumbed down in some ways to what you would think. This is just based on like, I'm assuming Clue is Hasbro, but in Hasbro.
How dare you? It's
entity.
Parker Brothers.
It's Parker Brothers. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh no. But I think they do a really good job. And I liken it to the way that sometimes they take rides and turn them into a movie, or they take video games and try and turn it into a movie. And I feel like they strike a really good balance of this feeling like its own thing, but you can still see the connection, particularly when they all get the weapon and it's like a noose and a wrench and a lead pipe. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fun. That's a fun way to do it.
And it's like,
And then there's that one line at the end where it was like, it was me in the hallway with the revolver. And I'm like, oh, fun. They did it. They nailed it.
and they like sprinkle in all like it's a big mansion, so obviously they have all different rooms. They're all the same themed ones. They throw in the little secret passages.
Yeah, and the secret passages do go exactly
They
where they
do?
should
Okay.
on the board too.
I was going to
Yeah.
ask because I didn't check, but I assumed they did.
they
And
do.
like geographically, it doesn't make any sense in the
Nope.
movie either, just like
Nope.
it doesn't in the board game. I think if this movie was made today, it would be a lot more nods, and there'd be crossovers to other Parker Brothers games to sort of set up sequels and
Oh, true.
and the Parker Brothers universe. I think it is owned by Hasbro now, so Optimus Prime would be there.
Optimus Prime was the killer.
Optimus Prime called for me.
He'd be the vehicle they all show up in.
Yeah.
Be all different Transformers.
Yeah, exactly.
Optimus Prime is the toaster.
And I had to double check this, but when I was offended about you not knowing Parker Brothers, not really. I was going to say Salem, Massachusetts own, because For some reason, we always call out when something's from Massachusetts, but I had to double check it. Yeah, they're from Salem. The Parker brothers.
Yeah, Hasbro's Providence, so we're right in the middle.
Yes.
Where in New England is this mansion supposed to be?
New England.
New England.
That's it. They didn't,
New
I
Could be
didn't.
Maine.
I wasn't sure if like I just skipped over and
Nope.
just missed it.
New
Okay, so
England.
it's New England. Okay.
If it's set in Salem, that'd make a lot of sense.
It is a spooky house. Salem is like a city, though. It doesn't look like
It would
that.
have to be outside of it.
Outside,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside the city limits.
So this is definitely somewhere in the North Shore.
Yeah, this is North Shore. This feels like North Shore.
This is a prequel to Manchester by the Sea.
yeah.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I totally lost what I was going to say because I'm looking at the wrong thing. I had my notes up and I've been scrolling something that isn't my notes, and that was stupid on me. I think today, jokes about Optimus Prime aside, it would be a lot less palatable. The sort of crossovers, it's like a pretty light touch. When they're all given the weapons, you're kind of like, oh, okay. It's sort of like a knowing chuckle, but it doesn't dominate the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And it does actually matter that all these weapons are around and who has what, and you're trying to track them and who has a key to the weapon cupboard. And aside from that, like I said, the names they established, these are just aliases. These aren't their actual names.
I like that they immediately are getting into there's a lore, because they absolutely could have just gone in and been like, this is Colonel Mustard, this is Professor Plum, for them to automatically bring it in and be like, that's not their names. There's something else going on. They're not happy to be here. They don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It gave it another level that made it feel more interesting than it would have been if it was just kind of a surface level sort of Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
Throw in everyone we got.
No, it definitely is fair.
God, Space Jam 2. I tell everyone who has ears, Bugs Bunny dies in this movie.
Excuse me?
They finish the basketball game. He's transported back to like Looney Tunesville, and everyone gathers around him as he gives his last dying breaths. And he says, it was just good to see everybody again. That's all, folks. And then his spirit ascends into heaven and he becomes a constellation.
I like that you're like, I tell everyone who has
I tell
ears.
everyone. I brought it up in a meeting at work recently.
Excuse me?
His spirit ascends into heaven and he becomes a constellation. I don't know how else to describe it. He says, that's all, folks. Dies. Constellation. He's in the next scene. LeBron James is like, I saw you die. And he's like, I'm a Looney Tune.
I was going to say
Credits.
I mean, so he's canonically dead now. Like he does
He's
not
canonically unkillable.
Okay.
And not like in a cartoon sense. In a people have tried and succeeded. And then he's in the next scene.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember who killed him. I guess there's like a robot version of Dame Lillard. Maybe he shot him with a gun from Pulp Fiction or whatever that movie's on about.
God.
That movie sucks.
I'll keep that as a note and I won't watch it.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I don't think I want to now.
I'm gonna have to do a month that's all movies that I tell people how bad they are and that they have to
This
watch
movie's
them.
absolutely terrible,
Ooh,
but someone needs to
I'm
see
really
it.
down for that.
That movie and Cats, and we just do
Oh
each of
my
them
God.
twice. Or we do Cats 3 times and then Space Jam 2.
This is so bad.
We got to cut out everything since something. I don't know what.
It'll be fun for you on the editing floor.
It will be. Hard cut. So at dinner, they all find out they're from or work in Washington, D.C. or work for the government in some way. So they all know
Professor
they're
Plum
connected.
is not in DC.
No.
But he
But you
works for the
work
UN.
for the UN. He's like, yes, that's true.
Yeah. And we also find out a few people know each other, but the other ones don't know them back. And it's all of these
Yes.
overlapping, this web is starting to appear sort of thing.
A lot of finger pointing.
Yeah.
A lot of finger pointing.
Yvette throws open the what is that called? A pass through to the dining room. Everyone jumps, but it ends up that this is Mrs. Peacock's favorite food, which we find out later is monkey brains.
Yeah. Much to Mr. Green's chagrin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's very upset about that.
Yes. So Mr. Body shows up And he gives the worst performance in the movie, but I don't.
It's so bad, and I have to think that it's on purpose.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
Which I think further reinforces the idea that he was actually the butler and Wadsworth was
And
Mr.
he's
Body.
trying to act like Mr. Body.
Yeah.
You're like, what are you doing?
Which more and more makes it feel like the final ending they show you is definitely canon because this guy sucks.
He's just trying to feel super important, just being a douchebag, and it's just like,
yeah. He's just being shitty.
Particularly, he goes along with everything. Like he sits down, he refuses all the food, and then he goes into the study and he sits in the chair. And then as soon as they're like, "We're gonna read this out," he's like, "I gotta get out of here!" And he takes off, and you're like, "What the fuck is happening?" And they're just like, "You can't get out. I locked the door." And he's like, "Let me out!" And he's trying to break a window, and there's a German Shepherd who's gonna tear him apart.
that's where it just escalates very fast.
As much as we were talking about watching this all the time growing up, when that guy came on, I was like, I thought that Mr. Body was only like talked about in this movie. I forgot this was a present character, and he's there for a while, and he sucks.
Yeah.
This guy is the worst.
I think it's because you want him to be dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is sort of a couple of the endings are like, what if we all just, we're all better off now? What if we all just go our way? And you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and everyone's like, well, we're all kind of shitty people. Let's go.
It's kind of the ending of one of the movies we've done this month. No spoilers. And yeah, I dig that this guy kind of, it sucks to such a like ridiculous degree when a fight starts. And it's like a very short, weird fight with the strangest fight choreography in a movie ever, which is on purpose. Again, this is a comedy we're talking about. But that like Colonel Mustard is like, oh, let me at him. And then he like smirkingly just sort of strolls over and like stomps on his foot and Three Stooges, like two finger pokes his eyes.
Yeah, he kicks Miss Scarlet. She goes down.
Yeah.
Miss White
So
just
weird.
saunters over and knees him in the nuts. Like, it's all these things are happening one after another.
It's just like, oh yeah, we hate this guy, but just very Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It gets very silly slapstick for a bit here.
Yeah, she knees him in the nuts and then people cheer. So.
Yeah. Eileen Brennan's Miss Peacock's in the background just going, yay.
Yeah.
She's actually like pumping her fist.
I remember not really liking her character when I first watched this, and I really enjoyed her character this time because it's so ridiculous and over the top. And she's the first character that you really get a sense of who she is because she starts that whole thing at the dinner table.
I have so much experience hosting because of my husband's work and stuff. And they immediately clock that she's like a senator's wife or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like I have to tell people if I don't, I'm going to explode.
Yes, exactly. Like she went to Harvard, that kind of thing. Yeah. We find out in that scene before they attack him what everyone's thing is. Well, he starts telling Wadsworth is like, I'm instructed to read out what all these are. And then I think Body tries to escape and then he comes back and then he actually does read everything out.
Yep.
Again, I just said we weren't going to get into the nitty gritty. That's my bad. It doesn't matter. Who cares? I'll cut that part out.
So it turns out Mr. Body is the one who is blackmailing all of these people, which is why they attack him. And he gives them this kind of dilemma. And he's like, I knew that the police were going to be coming. I knew that you all were going to be here. And if I didn't show up, you'd just tell the police what was going on. So everybody's got a weapon now. You've got to choose. Like, somebody's got to kill Wadsworth, and then we can all leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns out the lights.
Yes, a gunshot goes off in the dark. When the lights come, and there's screams and
Breaking things.
When the light comes back on, Mr. Body is dead on the floor, but not by a gunshot.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Not by a gunshot.
No, the gunshot goes into
Grace's,
Grace's ear.
But they don't find that out till later. Yeah.
Oh no, but he is pronounced dead by Mr. Plum.
Yes.
Professor
Yes, he
Plum.
is. Yeah.
Professor Plum, who tries to take his
It's a pretty bad
pulse
doctor.
twice and then says, yes, he's dead. And no one else tries to verify.
No.
He is a doctor after all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the doorbell rings, so they leave the room. They leave the room for some reason. They don't. They also.
Oh,
they-
well.
Peacock thinks she might be poisoned, screams a lot.
oh yes.
Oh, because then
Yeah.
the maid drank it as well, so she's screaming.
Yes. So they leave when they hear because they don't know who killed him. There's a murderer here. There's a murderer among us. They hear Yvette scream, like you said, so they go to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, is the murderer in here? She's like, yes. They're like, what do you mean? She's like, well, yeah, obviously one of us is the murderer.
Yeah.
So they're here.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone's there.
Right. As we find out later, maybe. Anyway, yeah. While they're in a different room, Mr. Body's gone when they get back to the study. And then they later find him doubly dead in a different room.
Yep.
Oh, it's in the bathroom.
Yep.
Yes, in the bathroom. They
find the cook next.
They find the cook, who is also dead next. Like she falls on top of Michael McKean, and he's like, "Help, help!" And he just really slowly collapses to the ground. And I forget who it is. It might be Mrs. White, walks over and is just kind of like near him. But
like, I'm gonna help you, not really.
Yeah. One of those like, oh, kind of leaning. Yeah.
So they take all of the bodies, they put them in the study, and they set them on the chair.
There's some business about how to face them on the chairs and stuff.
Yep.
I do like that their careness for the bodies just drastically drops as more and more bodies appear.
Yes. That's a great sequence when the first time they're finding these bodies, there's screams and hysteria. And then later on, when they find the body of the dead cop and the body of the dead the maintenance guy or the highway guy.
Oh, yeah. The maid. And then it's the maid, the cop, and then the singing telegram is the one where they're just kind of like.
They just sort of clock it, nod.
Deadpan. They're like, oh, one body. And they move on. They're like, two bodies. And they're like, well, there was a gunshot too. And they open the door. They're like, three bodies. And just close the door.
They don't even bother grabbing her until later too. And like the cops are supposed to be showing up at any moment.
Yep. They just like clock it and they're just kind of bored at that point. But there's a lot that happens in between.
A lot of shock value is gone for them.
Yes. So there's these couple bodies that are here now. And at some point, Mustard suggests that they blah, blah, blah. Also, at some point, Wadsworth admits that he's the one that invited everyone.
Oh, yeah, to try and get his get Body in trouble because he's being blackmailed, but not really.
He thought if we all got here together, we could,
solve all this.
Expose it to the cops or whatever. It says his wife knew socialists.
Yep. Yeah. So they decide to break into pairs and search each floor because they don't know. They're like, there has to either be someone else here or one of them is the killer.
Yes.
And all this is
importantly,
happening.
Wadsworth locks the weapons in the cabinet and then they split off.
Yep. And they know there's a time limit, that the cops are on their way. We got to figure this out before they get here. So they head out, they're in pairs. It's a pretty fun scene of them kind of how each of them are dealing with the walking around. Nobody trusts each other. No one will go in front of anyone to go up or down the stairs.
I think the pairing is also really funny when they do it with the matches where it's like everyone had their intended pair and then it was just all the opposites together.
Yeah, somewhere in here or maybe right before this is when the stranded motorist shows up and has to use the phone. And they're really shady about it and lock him in the room.
Turns out he used to be the driver for Colonel Mustard.
Yeah.
Right as he's starting to explain that to someone on the phone, he is murdered.
Yep.
So anyone who enters this house, as Mrs. Peacock says later, we can't let them in. They're going to get murdered.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the searching in the pairs. And Yvette and Mr. Green go up to the attic. And I like that they stand there so long. Like, well, you should go up first. No, yeah, you should go up first. And then like it cuts back to them and they haven't moved several minutes later.
Yeah, everyone's always like equally scared of each other.
Yes.
Like they're gonna murder each other.
Yeah. So a lot of times people are trying to walk side by side into places or around doors.
It's really fun the way that they're walking like up the stairs and Yvette's body just gets like pushed up. And then the same thing happens with Scarlett and who's she with?
Scarlett is with Wadsworth.
With Wadsworth?
No, sorry.
No.
White's with Wadsworth. Scarlett's with Mustard.
Yes. So when they're trying to like get out from behind the bar. No, isn't she with Professor Plum?
She's with Professor Plum.
Yeah.
Professor Plum is with Peacock.
No, Professor Plum's with Peacock.
Because they go into the basement and they both fall down the stairs.
You're right.
Yes. So Mustard and Scarlett.
Yeah. So like the part where they're behind the bar and they try and come out and she's like, "Nope, you go ahead." And he's like, "Okay." Then she's like, "Never mind," and tries to get out at the same time as him.
There's just like a lot of physical comedy and deadpan stuff happening throughout
like
this.
Wadsworth and Miss White like hopping in and out of the doors.
Such a good scene.
Yeah. It seems like this movie is probably a lot of fun to shoot. While they're searching, you cut to a close up on gloved hands burning all the blackmail evidence.
Yeah. And then you see it pick up the wrench, kill the motorist.
Yep.
And
then a cop comes. Investigating the abandoned car out there. A cop arrives. They put him in one of the rooms that has a phone. They lock it there too. He receives a call from J. Edgar Hoover. It's like, let me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they stage all the bodies to look like they are either drunk or in the midst of a heavy makeout session, so that they.
It was blowing my mind, that whole scene of events. And, it all
don't go.
worked out.
It's all too shocking.
He goes, it's America. And then he's saying it to Wadsworth, and Wadsworth's like, I didn't know it was that free.
Yeah, it's a free country. It's not that free. Nothing illegal's happening here. Are you sure? Tim Curry's great there. His reactions to things.
And then you keep panning to Green behind him, just kind of like nodding, like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, just go with it. Go with it. Yeah. Can I make that call now? Yeah. So the cop ends up locked in there again. As the pairs continue their search, I think the lights go out and then those 3 people may get murdered.
Yeah, and every murder is a different weapon too, which I do appreciate.
Yes.
So.
And yes, people get murdered in a room with a weapon, a different room and a different weapon. I think every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
It's well done because it's not on, like, they're not making a big deal about it, which I enjoy. So
this happened to be here.
Yeah.
So then we get
the sequence showing Yvette get strangled and the cop get beaned, and then the punchline, I guess if you want to call it that, of the scene with the singing telegram who shows up and gets out like 3 words and then shot immediately.
Yeah.
Too bad for that lady, but it is funny.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So then we get to the point where they're like, okay, what's going on? And Wadsworth tells them he knows what's going on and he's going to explain. It's the best explanation.
It's so good.
It's a very Poirot, Benoit Blanc.
Yeah.
For the movies we've done so far this week.
All I could think of was the Ant-Man's friend that explains all the scenes.
Louise?
Yes.
So...
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's
that's exactly
just like
it.
that. That's probably what they modeled it after.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of frantic, like, go here, go here, go here, go here. And everyone's just trailing after him.
And everyone's like, just get to the point.
Yeah.
Yes. To make a long story short, too late. It's a repeated joke in the movie. It's just so funny. It really is like, they just call an ISO for Tim Curry here. Mm-hmm. And he really just fucking delivers. He's so funny. This sequence goes on for a while and it's funny the whole time.
And his physical comedy is so good, where he keeps tripping Mr. Green and knocking him down so that he's body, and then he runs through this trap, like secret passage, so that he can fall out of the thing in the kitchen and land in his Green's arms, and he just drops him and he does the next line from the floor, and it's just so good. It's
so amazing.
The way he runs is funny. I don't know how to his very exaggerated sprinting is just really funny. When he's running with the knife over his head, it's funny.
Mm-hmm. There's a part where he starts that too, where he's chasing Green and he does like a hop to get into the hallway, and then he's like running after Green. Yeah. Green falls again. It's so good. And he goes, "Will you stop that?"
Yeah.
Pushes him into the toilet. He comes out washing his hands. It's all these just quick things.
And he explains some of the, I guess, revelations, basically how people knew everyone. And don't you understand? It's not just the people among us in this group that were involved with the blackmail scheme. It was everyone who's been here, pretty much.
Everyone was an informant. Everyone was some sort of source, and they're all a part of it. Nothing was by chance.
Yes.
Very big spider web.
Yes.
Yep. And the people who died all knew the principal people in some way, like you're saying. It's just, it's all good stuff. An evangelist interrupts the gathering. Ms. Peacock slams the door in his face.
Armageddon is upon us. It is already here.
Yeah.
Save your souls. We're trying to save our lives.
Yeah. It's very funny. And then we're into one of the end games, which you don't necessarily know at the time because it hasn't popped up yet. And this permutation of it is Yvette murder the cook with the dagger, and Mr. Body with Miss Scarlet's candlesticks on orders from Miss Scarlet, who then killed Yvette and the other victims. And Scarlet pulls a gun on everyone, and they do a thing. Mm-hmm. And someone, maybe her in this one, says that communism was a red herring.
I thought it was Colonel Mustard the whole time.
Yeah. It's never him.
Yeah, it was never him, and he was
Had the most. Last one where it's everyone.
Yes, but like he had like the most like opportunities away from people, so I was like, yes, it's him. He's like, I'm gonna go get a drink. It's like convenient.
Yes, and he was suspicious, and he knew about the secret passageways.
Yep. When
not everyone did.
He just happened to stumble onto them. I was like, it's got to be him, and then it wasn't him at all.
Yeah, but in this version, she's planning to sell everyone's secrets and make money off of it.
And they're like, what did they say? This like, you're doing it for the communists. And she goes, that's when she says the line, like, communist is always a red herring. I'm doing this for the capitalism.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't do something more American than sell these secrets. And someone literally like nods or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like, it's
fair
like, we don't have funny though.
Yep. And in this one, Wadsworth disarms her and like holds her hand behind her back as the police come in. And this is the first of the repeated gag of the police coming into like really triumphant music, which is always funny.
And they all like just run into different rooms.
I know, they all sprinted.
Yeah. And they take her away.
Yeah. And then you got the title screen. It's like,
that's how it might have happened.
Yeah.
But how about this? And you go back a little bit before the reveal, and it turns out this time, actually, Mrs. Peacock killed all the victims to conceal that she had taken bribes from foreign powers.
I also was not expecting there to be all the endings at the end.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it was just this way. I'm like, it wasn't who I thought it was. And then it was like another one.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that's, I guess, most remembered about this movie. But obviously, if you haven't seen it before, you don't know that. So does it play well?
The multiple?
I did like that it stacked over because it kind of stacks on like the goofiness of the movie, and it all like makes sense in the end of how it like all works out.
Yeah. I like this time, and every time it turns out the evangelist was like the local police chief or something. I like this time she actually gets out to her car and thinks she's getting away, and then all the floodlights turn on.
I do like that their whole ploy is like, okay, we're all gonna just be fine with this. You can leave, and they all sing for she's a jolly good fellow as she walks away.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going on there.
And then the door shuts, and you just see them all go like, "Oof."
We're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
And then we've got the
Wadsworth is the undercover FBI agent again in the second one. Here's what really happened.
Yeah, and this is definitely my favorite one. I like that they all had something that they did, and
aside from Mr. Green, everyone did a murder.
Mm-hmm. Everyone did a murder.
Plum killed Body with the revolver, Plum missed Body with the revolver, but killed him later in the hall with the candlestick. Mrs. Peacock stabbed the cook with the dagger. Colonel Mustard bludgeoned the motorist with the wrench. Mrs. White strangled a vet. Miss Scarlet clubbed the cop with the lead pipe. And I do like the note when Wadsworth, who does reveal himself to be Body, reveals that what they thought was Body was just the butler. And Christopher Lloyd's so upset that he killed that guy.
Yeah.
Not because he's upset that he killed someone, but just that it was the wrong guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Not again.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mr. Green suspected, therefore, of killing the singing telegram, he says, I didn't do it because I don't have the revolver. Whoever did must have killed her. And that's when Wadsworth reveals he has the gun. He's Mr. Body. He's been blackmailing all of them and intends to continue doing so. But let's just stack the bodies in the cellar and all leave.
Mm-hmm. I do like the reveal in that one that it's Green who's the FBI agent, and he has the fantastic ending of the line of just he does the clue. It was me in the hallway with the revolver. And then he's like, what are you going to do now? And he's like, I'm going to go sleep with my wife. And he just like
so
looks
funny.
At each other.
It's like, oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah. Good gosh.
It's so funny. The music plays when the cops come in again. Always funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's Clue. 1985's Clue.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Really enjoyable. I had a good time.
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't talk a lot about Christopher Lloyd. I do just want to say I love him as like an actor. There's a lot of movies.
Christopher Lloyd movie. Yeah.
I mean, Pagemaster. What a good one. Back to the Future.
I said most people probably would have gone with Back to the Future.
A bigger pull, but Pagemaster for me.
Yeah. I like that the guy who is sort of as a dead body, the MacGuffin, is just named Mr. Body.
Yeah.
that feels about right for Clue. Also, that's what it is in the game.
I think
assuming?
so. That you have to find the killer of Mr.
funny.
Body.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been a long time
Yeah,
since I
it's a
played
long
Clue.
time for me too. I'm assuming it is. It's still funny. It still translates. I think in the credits it has like 2 T's, but like we all know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We get it. Let's do ratings. So each week we'll give the movies that we talk about a rating on a scale of 0.5 to 5 on any scale of your choosing besides stars. You can go up by halves. That's how it works on Letterboxd. You can find our Letterboxd where we record these ratings. It's late to the movies. Just on Letterboxd. Find us. Their search feature is pretty weird, but do your best. Who wants to go first?
I'm gonna give it probably I want to say probably a 4 out of 5. Again, the sexism is great.
For what?
Oh, 4 out of 5 flames on the sides of my face.
Yeah, there you go.
Flames on the just heaving the flames on the side of my face. 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then you do your context that you were going to say.
And I was going to say just mainly because of on the rewatch, the sexism is an issue and a problem. But I understand this was the 80s trying to spoof the 50s. I get why that is the vibe. Don't love it, but the jokes are fantastic. The entire plot, the way the characters are, I really enjoy. So 4 out of 5.
I'd probably agree on the 4 out of 5 murder weapons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like it aged well enough, but there are definitely a little side things like the sexism and everything else, and just like the communism. But like it was still like a fun movie to watch, and I had a good time along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting to not super enjoy this watch. Just since the last time I sat down and watched it, I feel like a lot of the conversation about it usually focuses on this is really out of date. A lot of this is not aged well. So I was expecting that to be more my experience with it. And I had a great time. That stuff's still there. And it is still like, well, this isn't a 5-star movie, but for me, it is, I'm going to be in alignment. We all did 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm also going to go 4. 4 red herrings out of 5.
Yep.
Yeah. A classic movie, I think deservedly so, and really funny despite not being, it's more, I don't know. I guess I said spoof earlier, but that makes me think scary movie.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's
a little smarter than that.
It's almost like a satire. It's satirical. It's a satirical take on.
And I think, like you said, it's not cynical.
No,
it's more a celebration of it.
Yeah, you can tell they love that type of movie.
Yeah, paying like respect to it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yeah. It's a great one to include in this particular genre for this month, and I'm glad we did. And I'm glad that I knew someone who hadn't seen it yet.
You're welcome.
Greg and Ray hadn't either, but they didn't want to do it, so thanks.
Oh, they missed out. It was a good movie.
I described what it was, and Ray was just like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, okay, cool. It's like a fun comedy, but we usually do serious movies, but whatever, it's fine.
I enjoyed it.
Every month, at least in the last couple months since I decided to start doing this, I want to say in April, I'll think of a question that applies to each of the movies to sort of have some connective tissue. This month, and we've already gotten some good answers, so think about it, is a 2-part question. Would you rather have to, and which would you be better at? Getting away with murder or solving murder? So if you were put in either situation, which situation would you prefer to be in, and which one do you think you'd be better at? It hasn't always been the same answer for people.
Solving, I would rather solve. I'm too anxious for the other side of that. Yeah. I would be terrible. And same answer for me, solving. Yeah. I watched a lot of Harriet the Spy as a kid. I could feel like I got a few tricks up my sleeve. Read a lot of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys.
Yeah. What do you think?
See, I think the more fun one would be to solve the murder. Just like the escape room aspect. Yeah. That like I feel like it'd be like finding little hints, stringing all together. But I've also watched a lot of like serial killer things that I'm like, I could probably get away with murder. like I realized from a lot of the documentaries is just like they had no idea what they're doing. Like, it's always like, oh, we just stumbled upon this is how it happened. Like, the Unsolved Mystery Show really, like, put that out there.
Yeah, I think you're not the first person to be like, I think I just would know kind of how to do it better than people who have done it before.
It's like, oh, we'll just check off. Nope, someone got away with this way.
I would definitely be better at solving. I would definitely would rather solve a murder for sure. And would definitely be better at doing that, though I still think I'd be bad. I would just on a flat level would not be able to get away with the murder, guilt and stuff by day 2. I mean,
we were raised Catholic.
I'm down at the precinct singing to the cops. So
it's a problem, guys.
Whereas I think Greg's answer on the Glass Onion episode was that he'd prefer to solve a murder, but he'd be way better at getting away with a murder because he thinks he'd be just that bad at solving a murder that just sheer dumb luck, maybe he could get away with a murder. But he definitely could not solve one.
Yeah.
Which I think is a respectable.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be great at solving a
Oh,
murder,
no, not
but
at
I
all.
think I'd rather.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be bad at both, but he just thinks he'd be a little worse at solving it. Yeah, okay, great. So that's basically it. Anything else to say about Clue or Whodunits or, I don't know, anything you want to get out there into public view?
I really like Whodunits, and I am happy kind of with the rise of Knives Out that it seems like they're going to try and do more of these, and particularly like there's more Poirots coming out, and the next Poirot looks really fun, really spooky. The Murder in Venice.
Haunting in Venice.
The Haunting in Venice,
one.
yes. So I'm excited that this seems to be something that's kind of coming back around because I like this a lot.
Yeah,
No, I had a good time. This is like the first like whodunit kind of movie I've watched, which I do want to watch Knives Out though now because like I saw it and I'm like, oh, that looks fun, and then I just never got to the theaters. But
it's more straight as far as like it's more playing it straight, but it is still funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably a good transition, and it is still subverting the genre.
The second one is a little bit funnier and kind of they play up the little goofier. I didn't want to say goofy, but it's definitely goofier.
Is that the Glass Onion?
Glass Onion, yeah. The first one is
Knives Out's better.
One of my I honestly think the first one, the Knives Out, just first one, probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's really
good.
good.
It was filmed in Massachusetts, not that far.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Which we always have to mention.
We have to mention every time that happens.
Got to represent.
You got to represent. We're like a Frisbee's throw from Rhode Island, but anytime, and I've never mentioned anything in Rhode Island, but anytime Massachusetts connection.
New England, Massachusetts.
Yeah, New England. We assume this was also in, I wonder,
Sure.
I bet if you asked Ryan Johnson, he'd say that's why it's a big kind of sprawling mansion set in New England.
It has to be.
Yeah.
And then the part where the lights go out and they're all like have a weapon and are kind of wandering around. Like I really thought, and that happens in Glass Onion quite a few times. And I really feel like that is probably a reference to in Clue when like the lights keep going out and things keep happening.
Anyway, so yeah, we all agreed. Good movie, better than I thought I would enjoy it this time, and you're happy you saw it now.
Yeah, no, good time.
That's what this podcast's all about. All right, thank you, Kay and Will, for being on this episode.
Of course.
And
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, all the stuff I usually say, the spiel at the end, it's like you can find us on Podbeans and Apple Tunes and Google Casts, Stitcher, Spotify. Yeah, those are all the places. Nowhere else. If you go, caveat that I'm trying to put in every time, if you go to our actual website, latetothemovies.fireside.fm, it actually has links to all these things that I always forget the URLs for. But our handle on Instagram is latetothemovies. That's the number 2 _podcast. We actually started doing posts again there after a little bit of a hiatus, so check it out. And what else? Yeah, on TeePublic, you can still buy that shirt with Greg's face on it or one without his face on it. That's just Google TeePublic and the name of the podcast. It is impossible to find otherwise. That's most of the things. Thanks again, guys.
Woo.
And as always, I was just glad we could all be here one last time. That's all, folks. I'm going to heaven, becoming Constellation.
And you're back tomorrow.
And now I can't cut that part. I'm fine, LeBron.
Oh, man.
What's up, LeBron? I'm alive.
It breaks my brain.
That's my best Bugs Bunny.
I was going to say, it sounded like Paul Giamatti.
Sound like Paul Giamatti? Oh, God. I mean, those two are constantly being confused for each other.
Right.
Bugs Bunny was the first choice for Big Fat Liar. Yeah, he turned down Sideways. Thomas Hayden Church was insisting on Bugs Bunny, but they're like, let's just get a Bugs Bunny type. We can't afford him. Call Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.